Hi. If you're watching this, that means you've probably clicked on either the link in the description or the little icon in the top right-hand corner of my video, wondering what in the world is going on with this game and why it changed names or anything like that. So I wanted to introduce you to Shining Force 2. Shining Force 2 is a game that was released for the Sega Genesis back in 93, I think it was. It is a strategy RPG. It is not the first strategy RPG I ever played, but it's the first one that I knew it actually was a strategy RPG, and it's definitely the first one I've ever beaten. I played this on the actual original Sega Genesis. My father bought a Sega Genesis, blowing a lot of money, but, he didn't ever save money. Anyway, and this was one of the games that we ended up getting. It was toward the end of my lifespan with the Sega Genesis before it was stolen from me. It is a very, very normal fantasy setting. So Shining Force 2, you play the part of Bowie, or any character name here, because you can rename your character. Bowie is I think he starts at the age of 12 or 13 in the game. He's a kid, goes to a little tiny school in the city of Grand Seal. He is taught by his tutor, Sir Astral. Nobody knows what's going on with Bowie's father in-game. You actually find out in the guiding games that Bowie is the nephew of a legendary hero. And his father is a different legendary hero, just because. Bowie's mother is actually in the entire game. Nothing ever happens to her. The biggest threat is well, I'll get to that in a bit. But anyway, it is a fantasy setting. So you've got elves, you've got centaurs, you've got dwarves, you have fairies, you have Nezumi, you have, in other games, there are deer folk, there are bird folk, there are phoenix. You get the idea. It's a fantasy setting. It's a fairly bog standard fantasy setting. At the start of the game, you are being tutored by Sir Astral, the wizard advisor to the king. And basically, he gets a summons to the king, brings you all with him because, education. And turns out that something weird happened the previous night, and a demon got spawned. A really, really minor demon called a Gizmo. And I'm pretty sure it's named after Gizmo from Gremlins, for reference. They possess people. And Astral figures out that they're there to possess somebody else, like the king, or somebody else. And you go through, you defeat most of the gizmos, one runs away, goes to possess the king, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, you start going on this quest in order to try to find more information about what the heck is going on. And that's where the game kind of starts slowly. The first part of the game, so the game is split up into 4 parts. They're not equal in length, but it's 4 parts. You have the introduction to the game, which basically lasts until you leave Grand's Island. Then you have South Paramecia, or Paramecia as I keep constantly trying to say, North Paramecia, and then back to Grand's Island again. Roughly the halfway point of the game is a little bit before you go from South Paramecia to North Paramecia. From this point on, I will be talking about the more detailed plot of the game. I'm not giving away spoilers, so if you clicked on this link before watching the video that I linked this to linked from. Anyway, I'm not spoiling anything beyond the end of Nuzlocke Force 2. So this is basically just for if you haven't watched anything else and wondering what in the world's going on. So, turns out that Grand Seal is a corruption. Not as in corrupt cops or anything like that. I mean, the name Grand Seal is a corruption. It's interesting because I'm assuming that means that the translators did a decent job. The name Grand Seal is a corruption from ground seal. It is literally a seal in the ground. And it is sealing the greater Devil's Eon. Think Lucifer for Christian mythos, or some various greater demons. Yeah. That's actually what's underneath the Castle of Grand Seal. And you find out about this slowly, figuring out that, You go to some guy's house by the name of Howl. Turns out that the Kingdom of Gallum attacked him for some reason. And the Kingdom of Gallum and the Kingdom of Grandseal are allies. They're bordering each other. The game's gotta have some weird distance thing, like it's not to scale or something, because they're basically neighbors. Not even just bordering each other, but you can see one castle from the other type of thing. Anyway, turns out that they immediately start calling you Grandseal scum, even though you're allies as far as you knew, and get knocked out and dragged out to Gallum. Get freed from prison, you break yourself out via the help of this Nizumi by the name of Slade. And it turns out that Slade is the same character that's in the opening part of the game that pries out two jewels, the Jewel of Light and the Jewel of Evil. Yeah, I think it's good and evil. Might be light and evil. I'm obviously doing this off the cuff. Anyway, turns out those jewels were actually the key to sealing the ground for Ground Seal, and by prying out those jewels, Slade accidentally unlocked the Greater Evil. And his power's been seeping out ever since. So Slade's in jail. His thief friends have all been killed. And he helps you because he feels bad. He basically overhears your conversation and figures out, oh crap, I did all of this. Joins you. And that's when you find out that the King Gollum, as in the King of Gollum, whose name is King Gollum, I know, this is great naming, is actually possessed by one of those demons. So that's the reason why he's kind of going off the deep end and attacking his allies, saying no mercy, no quarter, and all that garbage. And Gollum invades Grandseal. You arrive in Grandseal after the Battle of Grandseal to find out that most people are dead. Luckily, they're all nameless guards, because none of the civilians are actually dead. Grandseal might have like a population of 12, as far as you can tell in the game, but whatever. You go in, you find that a man by the name of Lemon, who's the primary knight head of the defense forces of Gallum, finally believes Sir Astral that, holy crap, something's wrong with your king, we should go help. You reach the seal itself by going into this tower, going down pretty deep. It's the location of your first battle of the game, to find out that King Gollum is opening up the seal, opening up the gateway to the Hells, and has stolen the king's daughter. This is one major complaint that I have about the game. The king's daughter, so princess by the name of Ellis, has zero control or authority over her own life. She's a plot device. She could be replaced with a piece of wood with a post-it note on it that says MacGuffin, and there would be zero difference to the plot of the game until the very end. It's unfortunate, but it's true. This game is not... It does not pass Bechdel. It doesn't even come close to passing Bechdel. But I still held a close bit to my heart about this game. Anyway. This would be a lot more dramatic if you can actually see the lightning behind me instead of the lights reflecting off of my sliding glass window. Because Shining Force 2 starts with a thunderstorm, too. Anyway, you get there in the nick of time. Sir Astral fights King Gollum, and they both basically KO each other. King Gollum gets up faster because, well, possessed by Daemon. But you fight minions of King Gollum. You win. You get chucked at King Gollum and grab the gem of evil from King Gollum and fuse it to your neck. King Gollum, now depleted of substantial power, falls into the Hells along with Princess Ellis. And then when that happens, the earthquake starts. And it's basically a evacuate Grand Seal. You successfully evacuate Grand Seal, and all of a sudden, Grand Seal becomes a giant hole in the ground outside of the one tower that had where you just fought at. And you sail off to Parmesia. That is the end of the introduction to the game. From there, South Parmesia, you establish a new town by the name of New Grand Seal, and you're basically told to go make friends. One moment, my housemate just arrived and I don't want to interrupt this video. Alright, so after you arrive in Parmesia, your goal is to go find friends because all of a sudden, one day, and this is probably like a year or two later, I would guess, you find a strange traveler that has arrived into your little town by the name of Peter. He's a phoenix, and apparently phoenixes are servants of the gods in this universe, specifically the god Vulcanon. As far as I can tell, there are only two deities in the Shining Force 2 universe, and that's Vulcanon and Metula. And the god Vulcanon, apparently Peter's a servant of his, whereas Peter thinks of him more like a nice friend that's a little on the powerful side. And you accompany Peter to go speak with Vulcanon, to basically go, WTF, what's with the devils? You do so, meeting some more friends on the way, as you do. And you get up to Lord Vulcanon and actually be able to speak with him, and he's pissed off about your existence. Basically saying, you're from Grand Seal, it's okay if all the humans die, you're kind of useless anyway, you unleashed the demons on the world, go screw yourself. Peter's a little dismayed by this, but you're given a hint that maybe you might be able to speak with somebody else, an ex-Greater Devil by the name of Creed. He apparently retired. He lives in a nice mansion way over on the southern tip of South Paramecia. Although I don't think it's actually the southern tip, but whatever. Anyway, he lives in southern Paramecia, really far away from your current location. And you also find that in the town that you had gone through, that there was this little kid by the name of Adler, who apparently just, he's blind and got hit by something, like falling rocks or something like that, when Vulcanon got pissed off because devils tried to attack Vulcanon and he killed them all. Anyway, the mayor of that town is a waste of human space and refuses to help that little kid, so you take the kid with you. Little kid. He looks to be like 17, 18, which Bowie is probably around that age at this point of the game. So for reference, by the end of the game, Bowie's in his 20s, just that the game doesn't actually give you a reference for how long things are taking, other than comparison with the age of Ellis at the end of the game. Anyway, that's about where Nuzlocke Force 2 stopped. So that's as much as I'm going to explain for the plot of Shining Force 2. It's not a very detailed plot. It's a very cookie-cutter game. You could probably not watch this video, join into the game, and figure out 90% of the plot after watching one video, because it's a very simplistic and easy to figure out plot, with a couple of monkey wrenches thrown in. I have another video that I've recorded that is about the technical details about my randomizer that I created, and go ahead and watch that if you want to learn more about that. Otherwise, feel free to go back to the video that you were potentially watching, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye, Internet! It soon says bye, too. Also that Black Lives Matter and trans rights are human rights. Bye!